Each time the sun rises, it offers a new, untouched day, an open space. Yet, many of us do not enter it freely. We wake and without a thought. We carry the weight of yesterday forward. We allow the same currents of thought, the same heavy stones of memory, to flow into the clear waters of today. If you wish to cultivate a life of profound peace, clarity, and true inner wealth, you must learn to release the identity that no longer serves your path. Not as a future task, but in this very breath. All that has happened before, it is a story. It is not your essence. The moment you cease to define yourself by your past, you release yourself from its grip. Many carry their history like a heavy cloak, unaware they can choose to set it down. It follows only because we continue to turn and look at it. Your past is a teacher, not a cage. Its pages may explain your journey, but they do not write your destination. Set the story down. Become truly available for this moment, for this is the soil from which all new beginnings grow. If you wish to welcome a greater flow of life, you must first create the space for it to enter. And that space appears only when you quiet the echoes of yesterday. The act of waking is more than the body stirring. It is a profound opportunity for awareness to awaken. But most people simply open their eyes and continue to walk through their day in a state of sleep. Do not just get up. Arrive. Arrive into the feeling of your own life force, your breath. Arrive in the center of your own being. Find your ground here, before the day's winds begin to pull you. Instead of grasping for your device, first reach inward to your own stillness. Simply notice what is present within you. The thoughts, the feelings, the quiet resistances. This brief pause, this sacred moment each morning, can dissolve the deep, rooted, unconscious patterns that otherwise govern your hours. The version of you that is swayed by every passing impulse is the one that closes the door to a deeper existence. In place of impulsive reaction, cultivate observation. Simply witness your thoughts as you would watch clouds drift across the sky. Let them come and go. When you react, you are giving your inner strength away to outer conditions. When you respond from a place of stillness, you become the gentle guide of your own experience. The habitual self is drawn to noise and urgency. The awakened self observes, and from that clarity, it chooses its path with wisdom. This quiet space you create between yourself and your thoughts is not an escape. It is the beginning of true freedom. Stillness is a trusted guide you may have forgotten. Many people instinctively fill their mornings with sound and activity, perhaps from a subtle fear of what they might find in the quiet. Yet, the first few moments of your day are foundational. They set the tone for all that follows. Simply sit in the quiet. No music, no agendas, no voices. Just be. In that emptiness, your inner world begins to find its own order. The mental clutter starts to settle, like dust in a quiet room. When stillness is your first conversation of the day, your actions that follow become infused with purpose, with power, and with a sense of alignment. A life of deep fulfillment begins where inner resistance softens, and stillness is the gentle pathway through which resistance learns to walk away. One of the deepest veils to our peace is the belief that the world itself is flawed. The world is simply as it is. It is our perception that may be clouded. What you witness outside is often a perfect reflection of the landscape inside. If your awareness constantly lands on conflict, lack, or difficulty, it may be a gentle signal to clear your inner vision. Gratitude is the very practice that brings this clarity. True gratitude is not a habit of speech. It is a state of being. It's not about mechanically listing things. It is the profound, quiet recognition that this existence, this single breath, this very moment, is an unearned gift. When you resonate with a heart of gratitude, you align with the generous nature of life itself, which then mirrors that resonance by showing you more that is worthy of thanks. Discipline, often seen as a form of harsh restriction, is in fact one of the purest expressions of self-compassion. The part of you that is guided by old habits seeks ease, distraction, and fleeting comforts. But the part of you that is awakening honors the path of growth, which requires structure and clarity. Every time you choose a moment of reflection over a moment of reaction, a walk in nature over remaining stagnant. You are not inflicting a punishment. You are making a conscious contribution to your own inner development. Life does not respond to what you wish for. It responds to the energy you embody. Discipline gently shapes your being into one that is open and ready to receive without the barrier of inner resistance. Every sunrise presents an opportunity to let die what you were. This is not a dramatic end, but a quiet, spiritual release. Let go of the stories, the justifications, the emotional baggage from yesterday. Imagine for a moment waking up with no memory of past failures or perceived limits. Who might you be in that freedom? That version of you is not separate. It exists within you now. You may not have met it because the noise of your history has been too constant. Practice this release of the old self daily. Allow each sunrise to be a silent ritual of renewal. Life itself does not reward mere repetition. It thrives on renewal. So let this be more than words you hear once. Let it be a morning reminder that you are not your past. You are the infinite possibility of this moment, and this present moment is where all of life's abundance truly resides. Waking up is not a simple, mechanical function of the body moving from the bed. Deeper than this physical transition is the art of arriving, truly arriving in the present. Many people wake up physically, only to remain asleep in their minds and hearts throughout the day. Alarms, duties, and distractions wake them, but they are not awakened to a state of awareness. A true awakening is to become conscious of the now, of the rhythm of your breath, of the deep quiet that exists before the day's demands begin. As your eyes open each morning, ask, am I truly present, or am I just continuing the noise of yesterday? The habitual self will reach for a device, for notifications, for the world's call. The conscious self, however, pauses. It looks inward first. What is the quality of my inner space? What is the feeling in my heart? What am I holding from yesterday that is ready to be released? To observe yourself in this moment of quiet is not lost time. It is the very preparation for a day lived with greater clarity and inner strength. Most are unaware of how quickly they return to their familiar emotional grooves upon waking. They repeat the same loops of frustration, the same inner dialogues, and wonder why their life remains the same. But change does not come from doing the same things with more force. It comes from seeing oneself with honesty and choosing not to act from an unconscious place. When you learn to simply watch your mind in the morning, even for a few minutes, you begin the gentle process of releasing the old patterns. You start to interrupt the automatic behaviors that hold you in place. This arrival into the morning is a subtle yet deeply transformative ritual. It does not demand elaborate tools or practices. It asks only for your presence. Sit for a moment in the stillness. Feel the movement of your breath. Listen to the world awaken around you. Feel the energy of a new day as it meets you like a clear, open sky. This is the moment you can choose not to paint the same scene again. This is where you choose awareness over habit. This is where your own energy aligns with a deeper intention, something greater than simple routine. When you begin your day in this way, you train your mind to respond to life, rather than merely react to it. You are no longer governed by every impulse. You become a witness, and from that witnessing, a conscious creator. The old self reacts without thought, seeks constant input, and shies away from stillness. But the version of you that is truly awake does not fear stillness. It flourishes in it, for it is in this quiet space that insight, clarity, and a sense of deep well-being begin to flow. When your first act of the day is awareness, the rest of the day starts to mirror that quality. To arrive in the morning also means to let go of a rigid grasp on outcomes. You do not need to foresee how the day will go. You do not need to manage every detail. You need only to be rooted in the now. When you are fully here, your presence expands. You step into your day with a sense of calm, not pressure. You start to see more, to feel more deeply, and to align with a more harmonious flow, not because you are forcing an outcome, but because you are no longer distracted from your own center. Life's true abundance always finds the one who is present. So, tomorrow morning, Before all else, remember this. Do not just wake up, arrive. Do not just get out of bed, rise into a state of awareness. This small, potent shift will begin to gently dismantle the habits of the old self and create the inner space for a new way of being to emerge. You are not here to repeat your days. You are here to bring a new quality of presence to each one. And the more you arrive into each day with awareness, the more each day will arrive into you with a sense of peace and flow. The mind can be seen as a river, in constant motion, carrying thoughts and emotions like debris in its current. Most people are caught in this river. The moment they wake, a single thought can pull them under. They remember a past hurt, and their inner state sinks. They imagine a future challenge, and a wave of anxiety rises. Without knowing it, they are no longer here, in the present. They are adrift in projections of past and future. This is the nature of the habitual self, reactive, compulsive, and unaware. To step out of this current, you must learn to be the observer on the riverbank, not the one being carried away. Before your feet meet the floor, take a moment. Simply watch your thoughts. You do not need to judge them or follow them downstream. Just notice them. Like leaves on the water, they appear and they float away. You do not have to hold on to every one. You do not have to believe every story it tells. The space you create between the watcher and the thought, that is the start of freedom. That quiet gap is where transformation begins. When you cultivate this space, even for an instant, something profound happens. You stop reacting. You stop allowing your history or your worries to define your state of being. Many people live entirely in reaction, doing what they've always done, feeling what they've always felt. But the instant you observe without being pulled in, you interrupt that unconscious pattern. You become present, and in presence, there is a quiet power. You shift from being controlled by the current to being aware of its flow. Reacting is the language of the habitual self. It is a reflex born from old wounds, insecurities, and fear. Responding is different. It arises from clarity. It is not rushed or defensive. It is born from stillness. The person who only reacts is predictable. The person who responds is centered and possesses a calm strength. Others will feel this shift in your presence. More importantly, you will feel it in yourself. There is nothing to prove. You simply remain aware. And from this awareness, the right action reveals itself. This inner observation is not about ignoring your emotions. It is about seeing an emotion fully without becoming consumed by it. You can acknowledge anger without becoming an angry person. You can notice fear without letting it dictate your choices. This level of awareness rewrites the very foundations of the old self. It releases the patterns that hold you back, not by force, but by the light of your attention. When something is seen clearly, it loses its power to control you from the shadows. Clarity itself is the path. To live this way, you need not retreat from the world. You simply need to build the practice of observation. Each morning, before the world receives your energy, you gift it to yourself first. You sit for 1 minute, or 5, or 10. You close your eyes, you breathe, and you just watch. Let the mind be as it is. Let the feelings come and go. Do nothing. Be the space in which it all happens. Be the awareness. Over time, that awareness becomes stronger than the noise. Eventually, observation becomes your natural state. You will find yourself no longer reacting to life in the same way. You pause. You feel. You notice your inner state before you act. This is not weakness. This is inner mastery. When you reach this place, you have already begun to release the old self. Not by fighting it, but by becoming so deeply aware of what is true that the old patterns simply fall away. And in that presence, life flows with a natural ease. Most people begin their day with noise. As their eyes open, they immediately reach for distraction, turning on a screen or engaging in conversation, unaware of the inner disturbance this creates. They mistake movement for progress, sound for purpose, and busyness for meaning. But true inner power is cultivated in silence. Silence is not simply a lack of sound. It is the presence of awareness. In that space, before the day's first words are spoken, before the plans are made, there exists a clarity that noise can never offer. This is not about avoiding the world. It is about being willing to meet yourself without the shield of distraction. When you begin your day in silence, you offer yourself the most precious resource in our modern world, stillness. In that stillness, your inner world begins to settle. Thoughts that once raced may begin to slow. Emotions that felt overwhelming can soften. The sense of pressure that seemed so real begins to lose its grip. This happens not because you are forcing a change, but because you are simply allowing things to be. Silence creates space for your own truth to surface. It does not fill you, it clears you. And when you are internally clear, you naturally move toward clarity in your outer life. There is an intelligence within silence that words cannot capture. In that quiet, you begin to hear what is truly happening within you. You may feel discomfort, or you may feel peace. Whatever arises is real, and it is a messenger. Most run from silence because it reveals what they have been avoiding. But if you can sit with it, the discomfort can transform into depth. You begin to understand that you are not your thoughts. You are not your worries. You are not your plans. You are the silent awareness that watches it all. And that awareness holds a power beyond measure. Before the world asks for your attention, give that attention to your own inner landscape. Let silence be the first guidance you receive. It can teach you more about yourself than any external voice. This is not to reject wisdom from others, but to prepare your inner ground to truly receive it. Without stillness, you are just adding more information to a cluttered space. But in a state of quiet, a single insight can reorient your entire path. Your mind becomes like still water, able to reflect reality without distortion. In silence, you are not idle. You are returning to your natural state of being, where your energy aligns with the flow of life itself. This is where a deep sense of wellness begins. Not in striving, but in presence. The more still you become, the more you notice what truly matters. You begin to see which thoughts are worth keeping, which emotions need compassion, and which inner callings deserve your action. Silence does not remove life's challenges, but it allows you to move through them without becoming them. It may feel unusual at first to sit in stillness while the world rushes on, but the most profound transformations begin in the unseen. Just a few moments of silence each morning can send ripples of peace throughout your day. You will begin to speak with more purpose, to act with more clarity, and to live with a deeper intention. You stop striving for well-being and start to radiate it. People will notice a different quality in your presence, not for what you say, but for the calm you embody. When silence becomes your foundation, the old, reactive self cannot thrive. The version of you that depended on noise and distraction begins to dissolve. In its place, a more grounded, aware, and deeply connected being emerges. This new self does not need external validation. It carries its own peace. It aligns with life's flow, not through force, but through its state of being. So, every morning, before you invite the world in, first welcome the silence. Let it speak its quiet language to you. And you may find that in its stillness, it reveals everything you need. Many people navigate life by trying to fix the world around them. They operate from the belief that if only external circumstances would change, if other people would act differently, then they could finally experience peace. This perspective keeps them in a cycle of frustration and blame. They perceive problems everywhere, in others, in situations, in the flow of life itself. What is often missed is that we do not see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. You are not looking at the world. The world is a mirror showing you to yourself. You view it through a lens shaped by your history, your unresolved feelings, and your deepest conditioning. The state of this lens changes everything. Two people can be in the same situation, yet experience it in entirely different ways. Not because the world is different for them, but because their inner lens is tinted. If it is tinted by fear, you will perceive threats. If it is clouded by old hurts, you will see potential betrayal. If it is scratched by past wounds, you may bleed on people who did not cut you. This is how the old, Habitual self maintains its hold. It keeps you looking outward, so you never have to question the distortions within. It convinces you that your suffering is caused by the world, rather than by your interpretation of it. Trying to change the world without first clearing your own lens is like trying to clean a mirror by wiping the reflection. You can make demands and complain, but if the lens remains untouched, the view remains the same. This does not mean that challenges do not exist in the world. It means that your capacity to navigate them with wisdom is entirely dependent on your perception. When your mind is filled with judgments, a challenge appears as a threat. When your mind is calm and clear, the same challenge may be seen as an opportunity. Clarity turns chaos into a path forward. Your judgments are often not insights. They are echoes of past pain. Each time you declare, "People are always this way," or "Things never work out," you are speaking from an old wound, not from clear, seeing awareness. These generalizations do not describe the world's reality. They describe the parts of you that have not yet healed. The moment you begin to question these beliefs, the lens begins to clear. You start seeing people not as adversaries, but as mirrors. Situations feel less personal. They become part of a larger current to which you are now attuned. You do not attract what you want in life. You attract what you are. If your inner world is full of resistance, your outer world will reflect that. If your heart remains closed, life's gifts cannot enter. When you tend to your lens, even a little, the entire world begins to appear differently. You start to notice the beauty you once overlooked. You begin to feel calm where you used to feel anxiety. It's not that the world has changed. You have changed your way of seeing it. This shift is subtle, but it is profound. Tending to your lens is a daily practice. Each morning, it is cleared through awareness, stillness, and honest reflection. You can ask yourself, am I seeing this situation clearly, or am I projecting my own story onto it? You must be honest enough to recognize your own distortions and humble enough to let them go. This path requires letting go of the identity that feels powerful by being a victim. In that release, you reclaim your true power, the power to perceive life as it is, not as your conditioning imagines it to be. When you turn your focus from fixing the world to tending to your own perception, a new self begins to find its ground. This self is no longer reactive, no longer bitter, no longer trapped in conflict. It is calm, present, and open. It does not need the world to be different to be at peace. It brings peace to the world by how it sees and how it responds. This is how a life of fulfillment finds you, not when everything outside is arranged perfectly, but when your own vision becomes clear enough to recognize the grace that was always present. Gratitude is often perceived as a simple transaction saying, "Thank you," for something received. But true gratitude goes much deeper than words. It is not just a reaction to a positive event. It is a conscious awareness that this life, in all its complexity, owes you nothing. And yet, it provides everything you need to grow and evolve. This shift in perspective transforms gratitude from a polite habit into a profound insight. When you can feel thankful, not because your world is perfect, but simply because you are here and breathing, your entire inner state begins to change. Gratitude gently interrupts the pattern of never enough and brings your focus back to what is present. It reminds you that this very breath is not a guarantee, that the lessons, the people, the experiences, all are part of a generous unfolding that you have the privilege to witness. When you start your day from a place of gratitude, you are not merely thinking positive thoughts. You are resetting your internal compass. You are stepping out of a vibration of lack and into a vibration of openness. This is not about pretending challenges don't exist. It is about choosing to see what is already here, what is already whole, and what is already a blessing. From this energy, you cease striving and begin aligning. Opportunities that were once invisible start to appear, not because the world has changed, but because your perception has. Gratitude has a way of humbling the part of us that feels entitled. It dissolves the illusion that life should be a certain way just because we try hard. It points to the truth that the sun rises without our command, our hearts beat without our permission, and countless miracles unfold within and around us at every moment. When you perceive life from this view, your sense of struggle begins to soften. You still take action, but it is born from inspiration, not from desperation. You move from a place of fullness, not from a place of lack. There is also a quiet healing power in gratitude. It allows for forgiveness and release. When you feel grateful for life's lessons, even the painful ones, you cease seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances. You realize that life was shaping you, not punishing you. Gratitude can transform old wounds into symbols of your strength. It doesn't deny the pain, but it finds the meaning within it. And a sense of meaning is what the heart truly seeks. When you find meaning in your past, you no longer fear the future. You walk with a quiet trust that no experience is wasted. Practicing gratitude does not require specific conditions. You need only your awareness. Every morning, before your mind begins its list of what is missing, gently guide it to notice what is present. The more you cultivate this practice, the more your inner state shifts. Life starts to feel lighter and more welcoming. You become a vessel for grace, not by demanding that life give you more, but by being fully open to receive what is already flowing your way. The old, habitual self is fed by complaint and dissatisfaction. It looks for what is wrong. But when you choose gratitude, that self begins to lose its hold. In its place arises a version of you that radiates calm, aligns with abundance, and trusts the unfolding of life. This is not a trick of the mind. It is a state of being. Gratitude anchors you in the now, releases the feeling of lack, and prepares your heart to receive. In this state, you no longer need to chase. You become the space where life's blessings naturally arrive. There are aspects of our lives we try to avoid, certain emotions, memories, or patterns that bring us discomfort. We push them into the shadows, cover them with distractions, and convince ourselves we are beyond them. But whatever we resist does not vanish. It waits. And the more we run from it, the more quiet power it gains over us. Resistance often creates repetition. You may notice the same type of relationship, the same conflict, the same inner struggle appearing again and again without knowing why. This is not a punishment. It is an invitation to bring your awareness to what has been ignored. The mind naturally seeks comfort and familiarity, but our growth is not found in comfort. It is found in gently turning to face what we have been unwilling to meet. The very feeling you avoid, the pattern you deny, that is often the precise doorway to your next stage of transformation. Life will present it to you again, not to cause pain, but to awaken you. You cannot release what you have not fully seen. You cannot heal what you have not been willing to feel. The old self survives by avoiding. The new self is born through gentle acceptance. When you finally turn to look at what you have been running from, you begin to reclaim your energy. You realize that the experience itself is not as painful as the fear of feeling it. Most suffering comes from the resistance, not the emotion itself. By observing a pattern, by becoming curious about its roots, by allowing the feeling to be there without judging it, you break its cycle. You begin to see it not as who you are, but as something that has passed through you and taught you. This shift is the beginning of genuine freedom. Healing is not about adding something new. It is about removing what was never you to begin with. The emotional weight we carry is often not even ours. It is inherited from our past, from our experiences, from our families. It is not your fault that you carry it, but it becomes your path to consciously release it. And that path begins with facing it. Sit with your discomfort. Allow it to be present. Let it show you where you have been holding on to tension, blame, or sorrow. This is not a sign of weakness. It is an act of quiet courage. Real strength is not pretending to be unaffected. It is the willingness to be with what is real. Resistance is often tied to judgment. We label our feelings as wrong or bad. We suppress our grief or our anger because we believe we should not feel such things. But feelings are not wrong. They are simply energy, messengers from our inner world. They arise to show us what needs our gentle attention. When you listen without resistance, they soften. When you allow yourself to feel without judgment, you begin to integrate the lesson. What once felt overwhelming becomes manageable. What once defined you becomes part of your story, but not your identity. Facing what you resist is a practice, not a single event. Each time an old feeling arises, you can meet it with more presence, more compassion. You observe it without fear, no longer fighting. In that calm witnessing, the emotional charge begins to fade. You respond differently. You stop acting from the old wound and start acting from a place of wisdom. This does not mean you will never feel pain, but it means pain no longer has control. The pattern loses its power, and your life begins to open in new directions. As long as you resist something, it will remain a part of your journey, but the moment you meet it with full, compassionate awareness, it begins to dissolve. This is how you find freedom from the past. Not by forgetting, but by understanding. You don't destroy the old self. You understand it so completely that it no longer defines you. In that understanding, you are released. That is how true transformation occurs. Through presence, through acceptance, and through the quiet courage to face what you once ran from. Your environment is not something separate from you. It is a mirror of your inner state. The space you inhabit, the people you share your time with, the routines you practice, all of these reflect your internal world. When your outer world feels cluttered, chaotic, or draining, it is often a signal that your inner world is in a similar state. We tend to overlook this simple truth, blaming external things for how we feel. But if you observe closely, you will see how the chaos outside echoes the disorder inside. This is not a reason for guilt. It is an invitation to awareness, to recognize that what surrounds you is often a silent expression of your own energy. Many of us wish for peace, yet we live surrounded by noise. We want clarity, but we live in cluttered spaces. We want to grow, but our circles and routines keep us tethered to the past. What you allow in your physical space speaks about how you value your inner space. If you live amidst disorder, it becomes difficult to think with clarity or feel inspired. Your environment carries a weight, and that weight subtly influences every part of your life. Changing your surroundings is not just about tidying a room. It is a sacred practice. It is a way of declaring that you are making space for a new quality of being. When you bring order to your home, you affirm to yourself that you are worthy of peace and clarity. When you release objects that no longer serve you, you are practicing the essential art of letting go. When you choose with intention who and what you allow into your energetic field, you are stepping into your quiet power. This is not superficial, it is deeply spiritual. It is energetic harmony. Every item you keep holds an energy. Ask yourself, what is the energy that surrounds me daily? Do my walls reflect my aspirations? Or do they remind me of who I used to be? Do the people in my life uplift me, or do they deplete me? Are my habits aligned with who I am becoming? These questions are invitations to be honest with yourself. When your environment is intentional, it begins to nurture the very self you wish to cultivate. True abundance does not flow into spaces dominated by chaos. Not because it is blocked, but because there is no room for it to be received. A clear mind is a vessel for clear opportunities. A peaceful space welcomes creativity. A supportive circle of friends gives energy to your dreams. Your environment will either help you expand, or it will keep you contained. It either nourishes your growth or keeps you in cycles that feel familiar but are ultimately limiting. If you desire a new reality, begin with your immediate world. Tend to it as you would a garden. Make it a reflection of the peace you wish to feel. You do not have to change everything at once. Start simply. Let go of one thing that feels heavy. Spend a few minutes each day creating a sense of order. Set gentle boundaries with energies that drain you. These small actions create a powerful momentum. As you create clarity outside, you will feel it mirrored inside. You will feel lighter, more centered, and more aligned. The inner noise will quiet. The distractions will lose their pull. And in that new space, ideas, opportunities, and a sense of calm will begin to settle. When your environment supports your highest self, you no longer need to force anything. Life's blessings arrive naturally. They feel welcome because you have made space for them. You have created a sanctuary, not just with walls and objects, but with your own intention. And then, life begins to reflect your inner clarity with perfect precision. You no longer have to chase anything, because you have become a clear, aligned, and ready vessel. And the universe always responds to clarity. Always. Discipline is often misunderstood. It is seen as something harsh, a force that restricts your freedom or robs life of its joy. But in its true essence, discipline is not punishment. It is alignment. It is the practice of saying yes to what is truly important and no to the fleeting comforts that lead you away from your path. When you begin to live with discipline, you are not working against yourself. You are turning toward the deeper self you are meant to become. You are choosing growth over stagnation, clarity over confusion, and a quiet sense of purpose over the endless chase for pleasure that cannot last. Many avoid discipline because they see it as rigid and joyless. But true discipline is not born from self-criticism. It is born from self-respect. It is a quiet declaration that you are worthy of the effort, that your inner peace is worth protecting, and that your life is sacred. It is not a temporary effort. It becomes a way of living, a way of honoring yourself in the smallest of choices. Every conscious choice, from what you consume to how you speak to yourself, is either building the foundation of your future or holding you in the patterns of your past. The habitual self is drawn to ease and distraction. It seeks immediate comfort, even at the cost of long-term peace. It will quietly persuade you to stay in bed, to avoid a difficult but necessary conversation, to put off your true work for another day. Every time you listen to this voice, you strengthen the part of you that remains bound. But the moment you choose discipline, even in one small act, you begin to shift your entire identity. You cease being someone who merely hopes and start becoming someone who builds. This shift is gentle, but over time, it changes everything. Discipline is not about being perfect. It is about being consistent. You will still have moments of weakness, but you will return to your center more quickly because your foundation is stronger. You no longer rely on fleeting motivation. You rely on a quiet, steady commitment. And this commitment sends a clear signal, not just to yourself, but to the flow of life, that you are serious. You are no longer available for the old excuses. You have decided to move with intention. Every time you rise early to greet the quiet dawn, every time you choose purpose over distraction, you are building something profound within you. You are demonstrating that you can be trusted with more peace, more clarity, more responsibility. Life does not reward wishes alone. It responds to readiness. Discipline is the way you demonstrate that you are ready. It is the bridge that connects your deepest intention to your lived reality. Without it, your dreams remain whispers. With it, they become the life you live. There will be days when discipline feels solitary, when it seems others are choosing ease while you are doing the quiet work. In those moments, remember why you started. Remember that you are walking this path not for praise, but to meet the version of yourself that only this steady practice can reveal. That version of you is already present. It is just waiting for your consistent effort to bring it fully to life. To choose discipline is to choose yourself, not just the you of today, but the you that is emerging. It is an act of deep self-compassion, perhaps the deepest, for it requires patience and vision. You are not just living for today's comfort. You are mindfully building your future with every small, conscious action. And in that future, you will look back with gratitude, not regret, knowing that you honored your path, especially when it was hard. And that kind of reverence for yourself creates a life where true abundance can flow without effort. Transformation does not often arrive with a loud announcement. It does not wait for a grand event. True, deep transformation begins in the quiet moments, in the small choices made without an audience, in the gentle willingness to release the version of yourself that is no longer in harmony with your journey. Each morning, You are given this invitation, not as a metaphor, but as a real opportunity. When your eyes open, you can choose to let yesterday's self rest. Not just its events, but its mindset, its stories, its quiet limitations. Most people carry the same identity from one day to the next. They believe, this is who I am. This is how I have always been. But this identity is not a fixed monument. It is a flowing pattern, a memory, a series of choices being repeated, often without awareness. When you awaken and have the simple thought, today, I can be new, you begin to break the hold of that pattern. You give yourself permission to be reborn in this very moment. That quiet permission is a profound force. The world does not respond to your forgotten potential. It responds to the energy you embody in the now. To die daily does not mean to destroy yourself. It means to gently shed the layers that are not true. The layers of fear, of habit, of past conditioning. It means to look upon your old excuses and say, I am no longer using you as a reason to stay where I am. It means to feel your fears and say, I see you, but today, I will not let you lead. This is not an act of denial. It is an act of conscious choice. You do not deny that the past happened. You simply choose not to carry its weight into this new day. This inner release is not destruction, it is liberation. It creates the fertile ground where something new can finally grow. Many people wait for pain or crisis to force their transformation. But what if you did not need to wait for the storm? What if you chose to grow and evolve because your spirit calls for it? That is mastery. That is when you begin to move in harmony with the flow of existence. Every morning, you can close a chapter, not because the story was wrong, but because you are ready to begin writing a new one. You do not need an external reason. You only need the inner courage to stop clinging to who you were yesterday. In doing so, you become fully available to life as it is, pure, unfiltered, and deeply alive. Rebirth is not a far-off myth. It happens every time you choose not to be ruled by an old thought. Every time you choose your present truth over a past story. Every time you choose conscious action over hesitation. Rebirth happens when you remember that you are not your history, your name, or your struggles. You are the silent awareness behind it all. And from that place of awareness, all things become possible. This process does not demand perfection. It only asks for your gentle intention. This path of letting go and being renewed is not always comfortable. Releasing what is familiar rarely is. But it is necessary, because the longer you hold on to the old self, the heavier your journey becomes. The dreams that once felt alive begin to feel distant. The joy you once found in simple things begins to fade. Not because life has less to offer, but because you have less space to receive. When you allow the old self to rest, you do not lose anything real. You make space. You invite a new quality of thought, new connections, new levels of clarity. The world outside will always mirror the world inside. When you shift internally, your outer world begins to reflect that change. Life is in constant conversation with who you are being. Not who you were, and not who you hope to be, but who you are in this very moment. When you rise each day with the awareness that all that is old can be released, you resonate differently. You speak with more truth, you act with more courage, and you live with more ease. You are no longer trying to become someone. You are simply being. And that centered, peaceful energy is undeniable. That is when a life of fulfillment finds you. Not because you demanded it, but because you aligned with it, through the simple, courageous act of releasing your limits and rising into your truth each day. You are not here to repeat your life. You are here to renew it. The old self was built on survival. The new self is built on awareness. Abundance does not come from striving for it. It arises from your alignment with it. Each morning is an invitation to release who you were and to embody who you are becoming. So do not just hear this once. Feel it every morning, not with your mind, but with your entire being. And when you begin to live from that space, the universe will have no choice but to meet you there.